Oh, morning, everyone. Really great to see you here. And then Ian, Sante Sana for the very warm and flattering introduction. I know you've been on your seats for some time, and I hope we can make this an interesting conversation and interactive as well, especially towards the end. I am extremely honored to have a fantastic, really deep, knowledged set of panelists, and I'm hoping that we can get to explore some of the themes around government as a platform, and the concepts around openness, innovation, and how this encourages collaboration. So I would like, we're having a discussion on this some time back, and a few themes came up, and I think this has been informed by some of the sessions we've had where, there's sometimes a tendency to go into jargon. GAP, government as a platform, hackathons, APIs, so on and so forth. But ultimately, I think what really matters is what is meaningful to the end user. And from the perspective of this, we're looking at citizens who are consuming these services and other ecosystem stakeholders in the private sector and companies and private enterprise that need to derive value from government. So that will sort of set a backdrop for our discussion. And just to bring it, to make this practical, Ben had a question for Julius that I think sort of could frame some of the key pieces to tease out of this theme. And maybe we could start with that.
Yeah. So, started thinking about, how companies can offer services better to its customers using the database from government. And something simple like driving, the registration database of your vehicles. Now, the government stores private information about who owns the vehicles, but there's nothing private about this is my number plate, this is the color of the car, and this is what type of car it is, right? And that's something that we can all see because it's written, the number plates on the car, so it's public information. So I sort of asked, if you have that information and the government makes that available on APIs, then people can innovate services, whether it be parking or security, or insurance. You can, when you're buying your insurance, you can make it more convenient. So I sort of asked Julius, do you have access to that information? Do you have access to something simple like the vehicle license database when you're doing car insurance? Because I have to wait for you to come and send a valuer to come and verify I have the car, But why don't you have access? Or do you have access to that stuff?
Thank you so much. There's a lot that happens in the back end. We say every insurance company will tell you they have got a portal that you can go and buy your insurance cover. But you must give them all your details. You must give the details of your car. You must attach your logbook. You must attach your KRA PIN. You must attach your driver's license. All those kind of components, your copy of your ID. Now, all these components, if we really had access to the government database, we could actually not ask for all those details. Most likely, we could have asked for your phone number or your ID number, and you get all those details. So imagine if today I had access to that kind of information, even at the time of claiming, it would be so simple. Because right now, if you get an accident, you most likely will get an abstract from the police. They've got a database where they capture the abstract. But at the time of claiming, I'll tell you, here is the form you fill. Then I'll tell you again to give me all the details you gave me at the beginning. So your policy number, your ID number, your phone number, your KRA PIN, your driving license, and all that. Why do I need all that information? Because I want to verify that you are the same person who gave me those details before. But actually, it's an inconvenience to the customer if we had access to the platform. I have to again ask for an abstract. I think if any of you has had an accident, you most likely spend 2 days in a police station trying to get an abstract, another day following up with insurance, and then another day waiting for the assessor to come and look at your car, another 1 day for the investigator to finish their investigations, okay? And God forbid, if any of the persons involved in the accident died, then it will take most likely 6 months to 1 year to have that claim, the death claim paid. When actually government has got records of every person who died. Okay? So I'll ask for a burial permit and all that. You know, it's really not needed. So I don't, in short, if we had access to that information, the experience our customers will have will be top-notch. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think everyone can relate to that. I think almost everyone can relate to the frustration of going through a claims process, or you know, in the case of a health insurance, you know, claim and filing that. And the part of what I'm picking out here is that this information exists. The data is there. And there's this repetitive scenario of being asked for the same documents every time, instead of just once, especially if they do not change, like your identity documents. And I think that's a theme that you know, underlines this, the value that the citizens would like to have, the convenience of, I am known by government. Is there a way you can enable my service provider to give me a seamless service? And I think that probably segues now into our understanding of what this government being a platform really is about. What does that look like today? What are some of the interfaces that industries and sectors have with government that we can, you know, we can describe, and then, you know, as we carry on with the conversation, get to understand where we would like them to be and what models could, you know, make this happen, and you know, or at least accelerate if such initiatives are already in place. So perhaps I can throw this, I can, you know, bring in George here to, you know, paint that picture of what, you know, the government, you know, especially from the sector that you, you know, are situated in, looks to you, and what would a government, or rather, just to stick with, how does it work now, and what do you feel is the state of play with interaction with government and that interface to government?
Thanks, Martin. I was just reflecting on that example, and that's the reason why sometimes you enter an accident and you just want to settle with someone. You're like, okay, you do your own assessment, you look, and so then the whole purpose of even insurance is lost because you sort things yourself. But if we look at it, and you know, one of the things this government came in saying was about the whole digital and creative economy, and even the reorganization of government speaks to them being quite serious about it. But one of the things that was mentioned is, when you think about platforms, I think just three probably simple things. I think at the beginning of it is, who's the customer? And sometimes a platform creates an opportunity for what we call B2B to X. That X could be another business, could be a government, could be, and so you need to think about it from a model that you're not just developing it for yourself, but other people can come in it and be able to create products and services out of it. So instead of being focused that you're just creating one capability to meet a certain need, let's say driver's license, how do you enable other people to be able to utilize the driver's license capability to run their business? So that now becomes your focus on customer. So that's insurance, that's maybe telecommunications, banking, health, who knows. So that perspective of customer is important. I think second is simple. I think we need to start creating platforms that are simple and efficient, because sometimes we need to take a step back and do process re-engineering, because the world has moved, but the process still speaks to post-colonial Kenya, and who knows which offices are there. So process re-engineering is very important, and make it simple. We say simple and transparent. And then the last one is think about a platform in terms of an avenue for growth, that in 2-3 months or a year, you're not saying we need a new platform or a new upgrade. What's the vision behind the platform? Therefore, you're creating something that, like right now, you know, the reason we did Hustler Fund in 5 weeks is because we've built platforms that we can replicate what we do on M-Pesa, not just in Kenya, in Ethiopia, and other markets. When we start talking about fertilizer and all these other programs, we can spin it off in a very fast period, because we are building things, and we use an acronym called BOSS, building open, scalable, and sellable platforms. And now we are saying, well, can we also export this to other? We had our CTO of Vodacom, and he says, I like that capability. Can you take it to Mozambique? And now we started working with AI to see how it can translate into Portuguese. And in the project I'm doing in Ethiopia, everything we're building, we are now getting Amharic now. I don't need to do all the work. You have AI that can do it. So do we have a growth mindset when we put platforms, or every year there's a new procurement to replace, or every time there's a new government, there's a new process? So what's the vision we have? So customer at the center, simplicity, and then growth.
That's a great takeaway. Customer centricity. I think that's a theme that's that has resonated and been picked up quite a bit, over these sessions, and the aspect about the growth mindset. I think there's something interesting there that brings out is being able to build, well, initially with, of course, the outcome and the benefit to the end user in mind, but also with the recognition that you can't do it all. That you can actually have, you can actually have a setup that is win-win, where you achieve your objectives as the platform owner, but also create the opportunity for others to generate value, in a win-win setup. So perhaps that would be a good point to segue into some of what these capabilities may look like. And I'll probably want to bring in Ben here initially, and then have a discussion around how we can, from Timothy, look at the perspective of interesting models around offering services, especially around cloud, and maybe what experience may have been with government as it stands right now. So Ben, perhaps talking to the access component that would be that seems to be a key ingredient to enable this platform idea and end user benefit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of the talk the last 2 weeks, we saw there was a G20 in India. We saw Nigerians went to India, and now everyone's talking about India's stack. But that's just one aspect of a larger piece of sharing of different types of IT projects, right? Which is what we're calling digital public goods, digital public infrastructure. So this is being pushed now very much by certain United Nations, UNDP particularly, and becoming something that's been talked about at that level. I mean, I was last week at the UN General Assembly, and they were talking there very heavily about launching. It's been known as digital public goods, but now launching it as digital public infrastructure. And now that is to say that governments across the world are putting in, they're architecting their IT systems in such a way that they say what's really important. So they look at the subject of identity. Who are you, right? That's a really important thing that the government should be looking after and taking care of identity. But also the same for businesses. So in Kenya, that is done by the Business Registration Service. What is this business? But making that available across its own ministries and making it available for innovators to plug in as well, using a set of tools, a data sharing bus which works across the whole of government, the digital identity side. So the India stack is just one example where the government of India have created, or the India out of their own research institutes actually, have created this platform for themselves, and they're now open sourcing this out. Estonia are doing a lot in this as well, but many countries across the world are putting these projects, these IT projects that they've done out as open source. You can go and look up Digital Public Goods Alliance, you can find loads of projects, and you can adapt those things, right? When you're having an open government, open APIs, open systems, government provides this infrastructure like the roads, and then we come in with the private sector is coming in with the cars, the petrol stations, the repair of the cars, et cetera, the drivers, the Ubers. So by creating that infrastructure as an open innovation platform, that then enables companies, smaller companies to start up. Some big companies like Safaricom can do the big projects, and small companies, can do a small project for government, for citizens. Safaricom are not going to want to do every single IT project that comes up in the country because they'll focus on the big ones, the big important ones. But by creating this infrastructure for innovation, allowing companies to interface to government systems this way, then we can create more IT companies, right? And we at Liquid, we provide, you wonder why I'm talking about this, because you might think Liquid are fiber data centers. We provide the physical infrastructure, right? So we provide the connectivity to places, we provide the cloud, the local private cloud, the public cloud, connectivity to public cloud. But really, we want people to use this, right? And we've spent a lot of money on this. So we'd like companies to utilize this architecture and like, your system integrated for Amazon. So, we want, it's great that Amazon are going to be launching a local zone in Kenya. But, we want 5 or 6 more companies to come and launch local zones, big clouds. We want big infrastructure investments to come and fill up the space, the subsea cables we've invested in, the fiber optic cables. We've all put this together. Now, that means that we need the ability for companies to start consuming this cloud, right? Because it needs then the first one to come. They need to be successful. So by opening this up, government opening this up, making a more open ecosystem, that will enable more people to pursue, to consume cloud, to deliver services to government, deliver services to citizens, and make everybody better. So that's kind of why I'm talking about this, right? Because we want to see uptake, right? We've put down some of the best infrastructure in Africa into Kenya, as a collective of private sector companies like us and government as well with its contributions, and we really want to see it being used. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ben. And I think one of the things I've picked out there was there's sometimes the assumption that you build it and they will come, but there's also the need to create incentives to drive usage and adoption. And maybe this is some of the models we could unpack in the next few minutes. But I think that's an important theme in this whole concept of a platform and driving or generating or optimizing the value of that platform. But before we come back to that, Timothy, I don't know if that's something you may want to draw a picture of how the state of play looks with, I think, a technology that, and forgive me for going into technology again, but a technology that seems to be central to the idea of a platform and how that and how that relates to government as it is now.
Thank you, Martin. For me, when I'm thinking about government as a platform, I'm imagining it this way, right? Government and public sector in general is about service delivery, right? To citizens, to businesses and other organizations, stakeholders. And the way the government will function as a platform is if the data, the content, regulation or business rules are pluggable from outside to enhance how services are delivered generally, be it in the health sector, be it in transport, creating smart cities and all that. And the way I see this platform or all solutions that governments build have to operate on an infrastructure, right? And the cloud comes in a big way to make that a success. One is you have an infrastructure that is scalable, right? It makes it easy for businesses and government to utilize the same platform just to access that data and build capacity and space for startups that are big with innovation to plugging into that resource and just improve and keep improving on the solutions that the government is building. For instance, e-citizen is a huge product within the public sector, right? A lot of citizens also have seen the importance of us having such a service, right? You do not have now to travel from Nyeri to come to Nairobi. You don't have to move from Thika to come to Nairobi to access certain services from government. However, as much as this is a good gesture, I think we need to relook at it and see how we can make this platform reusable. You can, other public sector departments, other private sector, can also plug into that resource because the government has that data already, and just advance service delivery.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to pick up something there around the infrastructure piece, and maybe not to go too much into it, but an experience we also had at, in my earlier days at Huduma Kenya is, I think there was a recognition early on that we would need to have some sort of shared infrastructure to get the MDAs, the ministries, departments, agencies, basically the owners of services in government to a uniform meeting place, some sort of shared environment where we could then offer services to citizens and their own customers, whether it's NHIF or KRA, NSSF, and so on. And I remember initially there was quite a bit of resistance. There's a whole theme about silos and and controlling information because it proxies power. And I think initially that was what slowed things down. But an interesting thing happened when value started accruing from that. Citizens were getting or being served more dignity. And remember, these customers belong to these MDAs. These are NHIF, KRA customers. And the government agencies can actually see that, and KRA can see, wow, you've been able to resolve, to create an excellent front desk and take care of services that can free us to, to do what we do. And so there's this aspect of that recognition that it is when that there's more value actually in the sum of the parts than in each individual individual entity. And I think I would like to bring in George and then Julius on this. Around, we've heard from Ben about the India stack and cases out there. In Estonia, I think that has been used and overused of reference implementations, things that we'd like to aspire to. But I think there are also some great things that are happening that private industry has modeled around a platform use case that I think government can adopt and be encouraged by. George, would you, maybe pick out something that you think is, is sort of I wouldn't call it a case study per se, but at least a reference that encourages the perception of a platform as a way to go and opening up an ecosystem. Yeah.
All right. I'll take an example from the recent e-mobility launch we had at the coast. And one of the things that we were able to put together there with KCB and Spiro was the fact that you don't need to have all the money to buy a bike. You can actually be given a bike, and then the deductions are done, whether it's daily or whichever. So we're building on our Lipa Mdogo Mdogo, and one of the things we need to recognize a uniqueness about us Kenyans, but it's not just Kenyans, but most people in sub-Saharan Africa, is we earn daily wages. And that use case is leveraging the fact that, yeah, we buy airtime for 5 bob, for 10 bob. Probably are going to spend X hundred or 1,000 on airtime. But somebody else, Martin, who's working, is buying a postpaid plan for 3,000 shillings. This same person is doing the same. It's just the format in which they do it. And so it's just understanding that this is the type of customer persona, we call them personas, that we're dealing with, and then coming with those unique things. Now, the fact is, when I talk to a lot of our suppliers, multinationals, these are not problems they deal with. Even in the telco space, most developed countries are postpaid. They don't understand how even you have a prepaid billing system. But it's just taking that knowledge of our business and either doing it ourselves or through partnerships. But again, then also saying, this is the same problem in other parts of Africa. And the government saying we can actually export these type of technology solutions. And so we then, for the first time, we now have standing orders on M-Pesa. So somebody says, yeah, deduct me 200 or 300 shillings a day. I'll be able to pay back my bike, be able to replace, go to a point, get a battery, and all of a sudden you're addressing a climate change issue, an affordability issue, an accessibility issue, and a dignity issue in that use case. Now we can then take that to our neighbors who have the same problem. So we begin becoming net exporters of technology solutions for Africans instead of net importers. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for that, George. Now, Julius, I understand, and I know there's a fascinating use case around this and how we can use platform and data, and very much one that can be adopted in the manner that George has indicated. But I understand that we've got a very weighty set of issues to discuss. And I've been informed that we'll probably have a session after the lunch break to probably ventilate on some of these things a bit more. We will request the indulgence of, my panelists and the audience, that we defer the session to a bit later on, so that we can move on with some items. And there's a lot to discuss on this one. Yeah, so thank you very much. I think we're all available. I know this is a bit of a pivot, but I think this is something that's extremely exciting. We've got a lot of things to unpack and a Q&A session. So, but let me hand it back to Ian, and then we'll be better informed on how we'll proceed from here.